longer. You cannot find the middle path. You only walk one side of the road. Thought I knew all the answers, but I have to learn the hard way. Looked you in the eyes this morning, and I swear I saw the sun. I saw the sun go down. You cannot find the middle path if you only walk one side of the road. You cannot find the middle path if you only walk one side of the road. I walk the fine line between a better and a broken man. I walk this lonely road and I ask myself, when will I feel so alive again?
Hello, so nice to see you all, and welcome to the Guitar Experts Live Talk. And today we're streaming live to Facebook and YouTube. As you probably know, I'm Antony Reynaert of bestbluesguitarlessonsonline.com. Let's get this party started. So let's see who's with us today. He's a very special guest. We'll be talking about how to play slow and sexy sounding blues guitar solos. So if your guitar soloing sounds a little faint, sounds weak, then this will be a great talk. And let me check if I can invite our special guest here. It's James Maxwell, and he's going to share his expertise on improvisation. Welcome, James.
Hey, thank you very much, Antony. Great to see you. Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
It's going to be very educational. It's going to be very nice. And you're in the US, so I'm in Belgium. So it's really cool. We can do this using live stream technology. So, and if you're here with us anywhere in other parts of the world, or even in Belgium or the US, let us know in the chat where you're dialing in from. And also, if you have any question, we can get to those as well. So you can use the chat, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. So James, welcome. How are you? How are you doing? What's up with James?
Oh, great to be here. And how am I doing? I'm doing great. Always doing great. It's a good life. We're enjoying ourselves, especially when we get to be here talking about guitar. I think that's a great way to start the day. In your case, end the day, probably, from where you're at now.
At 6 p.m. over here, so yeah. And I agree, it's especially the topic at hand of today's talk, how to play slow and sexy blues guitar solos. I know is very close to both of our hearts. So it's great that we meet up to chat about this. And I see that there are people from all over the place tuning in, from the Netherlands, from Michigan, USA. Danielle is tuning in from South Africa. Welcome. And also Jim from Southwest Florida. And then we have Edmonton from Canada, and that's Robert. So welcome everyone who's here with us. And it seems that a lot of people can improvise a decent sounding guitar solo already, like guitar tunes in general. Oftentimes can use a scale like the minor pentatonic, sometimes even the blues scale, but their guitar solos still sound weak, and that doesn't really improve even when they learn 1,000 new scales. So, and if you're in this case and your guitar solos sound weak, somewhat superficial, we'll be chatting about approaches with James back and forth, and I'll share some of my favorite approaches as well also. But we'll be chatting especially about those approaches you can use to fix this, to make your guitar soloing sound more, so to speak, gritty or sexy, so on. And we'll talk about all of this in just a minute. But first, I'm wondering, James, what is the first guitarist that pops into your mind when you think about playing slow and sexy blues guitar solos?
Slow and sexy. First thing that I think about in this category, there's so many great ones, but the one that has such a great impact on me is Jeff Beck, and specifically that song, Because We've Ended as Lovers, because the dynamic range, the variations on his playing, the fact that he's not just going through and playing just notes or riffs. It is just so incredibly emotional, impactful, dynamic. It gets me excited every time I hear it.
All right. Thanks for sharing this one, and also thanks for stealing my one favorite guitarist I was going to mention, because I saw Jeff Beck a couple of years ago here in Brussels. It was a great show, and I love listening to he's like a monster player, and he's so deliberate, and his phrasing is so unique. So if you're tuning into, and we have a lot of people here with us from all kinds of places from all over the map, so it's a great question. If you want to answer it in the chat, feel free. What is your favorite guitarist if we're talking about slow and sexy blues guitar solos? Another one that comes to my mind is Joe Bonamassa, more recent one, and especially his album Blues Deluxe is one of my all-time favorite blues albums, especially from the last 2 decades. Then, so James, what are some of the things you notice when students start working with you in your guitar studio? Let's say the very first lesson, student walks into the teaching studio. What are some commonalities you find in regards of playing heartfelt guitar solos, and how do you start working on fixing them if they experience problems with making it all sound more heartfelt, more professional sounding, and so on?
Right. Now, the thing that is interesting here is the commonalities, because I have hundreds of students, and when they come in initially, the commonalities are they're across the board. It's like when someone walks in, I could be a guitar psychic. I'll be a guitar psychic for everyone watching. Let's see. My cards say, you've been playing guitar a little while, you know some scales, you play some notes, but nothing seems to sound great. You play the same riffs over and over again, and everything sounds blah. Okay, there's my psychic reading for you all. So most people, they know the notes to play, but when you're listening to them, there's the things they're missing is there's no theme, there's no direction to what they're playing. You see, we've all got the same notes. The notes are limited, but the variations on how to play these notes is totally unlimited. How many ways you can play with dynamics, with ornaments, with the rhythms of the notes. All of these things create infinite variations. So we're not always concerned about playing just a pentatonic scale. You could get away with everything just using those 5 notes. However, when you hear someone come in, initially, they'll have those notes. That's about it. So without dynamics, without having phrasing, which is playing something that sounds complete, it has a beginning, it has an ending, and then you develop on this idea. Because as you're playing, if I put on a backing track, it's like 3-minute backing track of something, most people lose all the steam in the first 10 or 20 seconds because they've played their riffs. You see, if you're just playing off riffs, just individual note riffs that you've played your whole life, you're not building any kind of actual melodic sound that makes people go, oh, wow, I love to listen to that guy play. They go, wow, that guy plays notes. So instead of playing notes, we want to play cool, dynamic phrases. So you have no direction in their playing series of notes, riffs instead of actual phrases. And we talked about dynamics a minute ago. I mentioned it. But when all the notes have the same character, all the notes have the same attack, everything you play, no matter how great the notes are, it's going to sound monotonous very, very quickly. So we need to alter these things up in order to have dynamic, sexy guitar playing. I looked up Google, carefully, definition of sexy, and I was thinking about it when we were talking. So we know what it means when we talk about guitar. We even say, oh, that's a sexy guitar. But it talks about, being exciting, being desirable. You could be slow and incredibly exciting at the same time. So there you have it.
Wow, James, getting turned on by just listening to you. Nice. All right. And the level of passion you talk about, like, it's invigorating. So thank you for your very nice answer. And I'm sure, like, lots of people find themselves in this category of guitar player. Like, they're somewhere in between. They know what to play, but it doesn't really add up when they start playing. Like, it becomes really boring quickly. Like you stated, it sounds monotonous. And the thing is that we want to help those people. And I was wondering, are there some specific strategies that you use, specific tactics, methods you use, exercises of some kind with students to get them out of this rut of always playing the same dready notes at the same dynamic level as you were talking about?
Oh, for sure. We have a lot of very good systems. And the good news is none of the things are complicated. The steps are actually pretty straight ahead. So when you start playing, if you're newer to this, or you're playing and everything sounds the same, we go down a little checklist. The first thing is the right notes. Now, this one's really easy because if we're going to play an A, because I think A is a guitar key. I think there's one other guitar key, but I can't remember. Oh, E. guitar plays an A and E. I don't know of any other notes, but I know those are good ones. So I'm kidding, of course. Okay, so when you have the right notes, these notes here, they're good. You don't need to go finding all kinds of weird scales and other things when you're starting off. Those are plenty good. So you have the right notes. The second thing that will have the most, well, the first thing doesn't have any impact. It's just use the right notes, for goodness sake. The second one is rhythm. Now, this is where people lose it very quickly, and it's incredibly easy to fix. When you're playing, you don't want to think about it as just a continuous series of notes. It's very simple just to clap out any rhythm and then play for a couple minutes using that same rhythm. What will happen is your phrases will automatically begin to form. So you have someone coming in and they're playing over anything, and they're just playing. Whatever they're playing, and it probably sounds something like that. Just by grouping notes together, like something like two. Just by playing simple sets of notes, simple sets of rhythms, is plenty good. Three. Simple rhythms like that will automatically make you sound much more like you know what you're doing, because you have an idea and you're developing that idea. So you start off with just the right notes. Then you're going to add a rhythm to it. Then we get the special sauce. Nobody wants your whatever you're eating, cheeseburger without sauce on it, right? We don't want dry meat. So the ornaments are the thing that makes your notes sound much more expressive. So you have the right notes, you've got a rhythm, and now by adding something as simple as a slide, we'll go back to this rhythm. Nobody's buying that album. However, adding a couple little ornaments automatically makes it sound more expressive. And then the final item is dynamics. Now with ornaments, you already have dynamics built into your playing. Here's a fun example I like to do. Here we go. It's going to be annoying. I say, how many notes was that? You probably went, I have no idea. But if I play it like this, how many notes was that? Well, that was 4 sets of 4 notes. Just by adding in that slide, you've added an accent. The accent is your dynamic that will make it sound like you're playing on purpose. You're playing a phrase. So the same thing we were doing earlier, whatever the rhythm was that I can't remember now, something like that. And by adding in the volume difference of what you're playing, attacking the pick hard, attacking back here by the bridge to give it more, will give you that dynamic range rather than just playing a series of notes. Yes, so we want to have the right notes first, rhythm second. Then you add some ornaments, the final sauce, dynamics. All of that will absolutely enhance the quality of your phrases. Yes.
Nice. Make guitar playing great again. Cool.
That's right.
So, um, I think you're very, very aware of all the things that needs to be done. What are some of the troubles you found with working with students when implementing all of these things? Is it like most people get it, or I know for certain how it is with our students here at our guitar schools, but I'm wondering how you are approaching this when students don't seem to get one of these aspects, or what are the things that are the most challenging to get for them?
Oh, it's an easy one because just like we were talking about the types of students, the challenges they have are the same as well, because playing small groups of notes, playing in a rhythm, is not a difficult thing by itself. But having someone training, doing it for the right amount of time to get really comfortable doing it is difficult for most people to do. They lose patience quickly because they want to do all kinds of other things. But remember, if you are watching this and you're thinking that, well, you keep playing the same things over and over again, this must mean that you're practicing the same things over and over again, the same things you've always been doing, and those things are not working. It's usually because we don't have the discipline to take just a single idea, like playing with dynamics, change your volume, and taking that to doing it so you can do it very comfortably in just a small set of notes. Now, I want to make the distinction here because this is guitar and this is fun. This is a fun thing to do. I'm talking about when we're training how to think about this. Now, when you're just jamming, go for it. Do whatever the heck you want and have a great time. Enjoy yourself. But you will set aside, if you set aside 5 minutes a day and just wrote on a piece of paper a few rhythms, note groups, 3 notes, 2 notes, and just worked with those 3, 4 notes. And just practiced playing the same rhythm, but changing the notes, your playing will take off immediately. So the problem, of course, is students not taking the time to develop small, simple ideas like this, and then just going on the internet looking up, how do I play this crazy scale that Robin Ford plays? There's a whole lot more than that scale. You think about it. Think about you have someone like Robin Ford sitting next to you, jamming. You say, all right, Robin, I get to play whatever the heck I want to, but you only get these 4 notes. He will still beat all of our butts. So it's not about the notes, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about the notes. That's right.
All right. I want to get back on something about the ornamentation that you mentioned. A lot of people always try to find very difficult techniques and they want to add all extra techniques and the most difficult ones in their guitar playing. But as you were saying, if you're adding like little basic techniques like slides, a lot of times we can do extraordinary things with it. And if you listen to a lot of instrumental jazz music, like Wes Montgomery, for instance, like a lot of the times, especially because they're playing big hollow body guitars, they don't really bend up the strings, they don't use a lot of vibrato, but every note is played with authority
Mhm.
Every note has a great tone, and also every note is played very deliberately. And then if you add just a basic technique like a slide, your entire playing already sounds much, much better than if you're always trying to find the new scales, the new riffs, what's the newest in town. I want to play this guy's song. So if you're watching this and you're finding yourself in this trap of not really getting anywhere with how your guitar solos really project how they really feel when someone is listening, then a very good idea is to start with the absolute basics of phrasing and the dynamics, like James was talking about just a minute earlier, is a really big part of this. And a lot of people are looking to the left hand for this, the fretting hand, but there's so much we can do with the right hand. And if you start looking at just this to get this foundation in the right place, there's a lot of things we can find there. For example, if you're always playing like just scales like this, it doesn't sound really good, but it doesn't sound bad either. But that's the place where many people find themselves. But if you notice the dynamics in which I hit the notes, it sounds a bit weak. So, and this also is tied a lot, and in almost all cases, to developing your technique. But if you develop this right hand so you're able to play with authority, and you're able to play with different dynamics, but not only this, you're just able to play with authority by hitting the strings like really hard. It doesn't really matter what you play, it will always sound good. So first developing this right hand, looking into the technique, correct technique of right hand, development is really for many reasons a very good thing to do, and especially like because we're talking about phrasing, it's very good to look there also. And as you can hear, it sounds much different. So I was first playing something like this, like most people play, but then you don't always want to sound very articulate if you play, but it's great to be able to go there if you need to go there. And of course, right hand development is a whole other topic. We're not here to discuss technique, but many people, what I found is they hold the pick so close to the tip that it touches the bottom of their thumb or even the tip of the finger. So they always hit the string not only with the pick but also with their fingers. So it sounds like this when they play. And of course, I'm exaggerating here. It's more like, but it's a totally different game if you start to notice this happening, and if you start to always making sure that you only hit the string with the tip of your pick, not with the fingers. And this is a one piece of advice of the right hand development that will also reflect into your phrasing, especially when we're talking about dynamics. And also, as James was saying, with little things we can do big things, like with the slides. If you're just doing this with the right hand and then you're adding a basic technique like the slides, it will already sound much cooler if you play like. So no, the only thing that I did is played minor pentatonic scale or blues scale. Then I've added dynamics by really hitting the string with authority, and then just used small slides. and maybe a hammer on at the end for extras. So yeah, thanks for this, James, and I'm sure people will appreciate it. So let's see what people in the chat are saying. So if you have any kind of question, just put it in the chat, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube watching this stream here with us. So let's see what people are about. So Robert was talking about, when we were talking about favorite guitarists, when thinking about slow and sexy blues playing, Robert Cray was the name that he thought of. And I think if you're here with us live and you haven't looked up Robert Cray, it's a gem. So it's one of my favorite guitar players, has a really great tone. All right, cool. And also, Lucas is tuning in with us, and he's saying that the same things James was talking about, he also uses when teaching a student that he has about rhythm. So thanks for sharing that, Lucas. And then he says, take simple building blocks and then develop them further. That way they grow an intuition for those patterns. He's talking about the rhythm patterns. Over time, they will start to hear them in their mind and then be able to bring it out. All right. So thanks for sharing that. And as we were talking with James, we have talked about many different things you can do to better your guitar playing, especially in the area of sounding really sexy in your guitar playing, let's call it that. So what is, James, for you, the lowest hanging fruit, so to speak, of tips people can implement right away to sound better when soloing? Because I can imagine that people have this whole list of things they need to be aware of when they're practicing, and then they need to do this, but they also have other stuff probably they want to be practicing. So what is, in your opinion, the one thing they can start doing right now that gets the most advantages to your guitar playing, the biggest benefits?
Right. Well, the first thing I do, oh, by the way, Anthony, when you were giving that demonstration on dynamics, you hit that pentatonic scale. After you did the first just plain playing, you went and played the second time. It just hit me because it was just so much more powerful, totally different. There's a story I have of when I was learning to play guitar when I was a teenager in a music store, and a friend of mine was there as well. And I heard him play something. I said, "Oh, that was cool. What was that riff?" He said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "Oh, play that cool riff again." And what he did was he just simply played the scale. He played this scale. However, it sounded more like the exact same scale, the exact same notes in the exact same order, but with the dynamics changed everything. So we love those dynamics. Low-hanging fruit. Easy one for this is to, when you're looking at 12-bar blues, you don't look at it, let's say you're going to be playing 3 sets through, 36 measures of playing. If I just laid out 36 measures in a row, it's a lot of music that you have to fill. So you have to change the way that you think about what you're playing over. So when you're playing over a 12-bar blues, for instance, you have 3 rows, 4 measures each if you're looking at it. If you simply look at each row as one idea, now we have another idea, and then you play whatever the heck you want. Goes like this. Play something, repeat what you just played, do whatever you want. Now what you have is you already filled up now all 12 measures, And it now sounds like one idea. So one of the reasons that people sound like they just keep playing the same things over and over again, because they are. Now, if you're dividing it up, you have a nice big, listen to your favorite guitar players. They're not just hitting these one-off phrases. They take a single idea and then they repeat the idea, develop the idea. So the point of this is to not just play series of riffs, to take one single idea, whatever comes out of your hands first, could be anything, repeat the idea with more intensity, less intensity, with more dynamics, anything that you can do to create a variation. So don't overthink these ideas. Take a small set of notes, 4 notes in one area, and work on this. One idea, repeat the idea, but change the intensity you play, add some slides and bends or whatever you feel like playing. This will get you in the habit of sounding like a grown-up guitar player, a mature guitar player who knows what he's doing. You never hear great guitar players take their turn at the solo and go, that will not happen. However, when you're playing, by repeating the idea, either with rhythm or by just simply repeating the rhythm, but using different notes, repeating the notes with a different rhythm, anything that you can do to develop that phrase, you will instantly sound like you know what you're doing. So it's a long answer, but this is the point. Have an idea, repeat your idea, but make it different. Repeat it again, add some more dynamics. Yes. Don't make it hard on yourselves. Got it? Good. Everyone's nodding yes. I can see them.
Great. Thanks for this, James. And I see people are asking for many other exercises in the chat, so we have a bit more time to elaborate. And I want to add to this, like if you're finding yourself like running in circles with your guitar playing, there's a lot of things you can do, but as James already stressed the point, take the simple things first, work on these. And a lot of the times when you're just working on things like dynamics, you will feel your own playing is growing and flourishing really, but you need, like James called it, discipline to work on this, like for 10 minutes a day, work on right hand dexterity or work on your ornamentation techniques. And you need to be a bit organized, right, to not only listen to the advice that we are sharing here, but also to put it into action. And for me, like if we are altering the dynamics, that is like what James stated as being the lowest hanging fruit, so to speak. This is where it all starts, when we try to make our playing sounds, sexy and deliberate. But like we were saying before that point, it even starts with a more technical approach. So to hit each note very deliberate, to like really get into the inside of every note and try to feel every note, because many people play scales and it's like but they don't really feel every note and they aren't really playing really deliberately. And there's like a classical guitarist, I think it was Pepe Romero, and he has a great quote on this. It's like, you need to make every note sound like it's will reflect in the universe forever. So that's not the exact paraphrasing, but just the message behind it is really play deliberately. Every note you play, if it's going to be forever out there in the universe, make it a great one. And don't play sloppy notes. Play them very deliberate with authority, and it all starts there. So if you, one of my students had a great idea about this, like if you just um, got a point for every great note you played, you would be more incentivized to play great notes, probably. Like, if you play 12 notes in the A minor pentatonic scale, playing it up, like try to hit them with the nail on the head, like try to hit 12 out of 12. And if some of the notes sound sloppy, we need to start working there. And then the dynamic part, because Mike is asking in the chat, like, love more advice on playing with authority, confidence with right hand. There's a lot of there are a lot of things you can do. For example, if I'm hitting the string here with this attack, or I'm hitting it with more attack, it's a totally different feel. Or if I'm hitting the string closer to the bridge, or if I'm hitting it like with the pick and an angle, or maybe with my thumb. And also the toggle switch plays a big role in this. If I'm, playing over here with my thumb, and then I'm using my bridge pickup, it's totally different sound. Especially because we were talking about Jeff Beck the other minute, like he plays a lot of, with fingers and these crazy sounds. And this all comes from deliberately practicing and working on the dynamic part. And like we are talking about, it comes a lot from the right hand. Also, as you can see, when I'm playing here without looking at my left hand, it's like, sometimes I play. That's jazz. So sometimes I'm going over all the strings with my pick because my left hand is muting the other strings. And so this is more like a bit more higher, intermediate, early advanced territory to get into. So it's not, if you started playing yesterday, something you should look into today. But there's a lot of things that need to be developed for this kind of playing, because we need to be muting all the other strings we aren't really holding down. But an easy exercise, if you're like intermediate player, that you can start out with, is just muting all of the strings by just placing your hand really with a light touch on the strings. Think of like a butterfly sitting on strings, not this, but not a fat butterfly, but skinny one. And then you do it with the pinky. You just pick like the B string, and you press down only that B string, like with the pinky finger, because we need the other 3 fingers to do the muting. So this is our skinny butterfly here. And now we have like a more accented sound, a thicker sound. So it's called a Rake Technique, and it's used a lot in blues guitar playing, but also jazz and other styles as well. So, but we can do a lot because it sounds totally different if I'm playing this E note over here at the B string, and if I'm just hitting the string like this, this is the sound, even if I'm playing it with authority, as we were talking about. It will still sound like a normal note, but no, if I play it like this, it's a different sound. So it's great to be able to have this palette of sounds, of different musical colors, if you will. So you can go with an easy exercise to get into this technique is just going with this one string and then trying to make solo. So it's like the pinky finger guitar solo. So you just go up and down on the B string with, for instance, here was just a pentatonic scale played on the B string. So, but this is to learn this effortlessness and the right hand technique. And of course, there's a lot more that goes into this, especially in the technical side of this. But this is for people who want to get into this technique, an easy exercise you can get started with.
Yeah.
All right.
With that dynamic as well, he was asking how to practice it too. If you're even if it's new to you and you've not done it at all or haven't thought about it, you could keep it as simple as saying, going to play 4 notes very loud, and now I'm going to play 4 notes very quiet. Play 4 notes loud, 4 notes quiet, just as a drill as you're doing this, because it teaches you to, when you're hitting the strings with force versus when you're just grazing the strings as well. So when you're starting off with any of these ideas, don't overcomplicate them. Say, I will play 2 loud notes and a soft note. All we have to do is vary the dynamics. So don't make it into something more complicated than it is. I know you guitar players, we like to do this.
That's true. We're all guitar players, and you know how it is. And Robert in the chat is actually also hitting a home run with this quote on this, and like I will display it here. So he is talking about the approaches we've been talking about here: the single ID and repeat, then expand on that ID. So he is talking about using one simple ID, repeat that ID, and then expand on that ID. And a lot of times in blues, that's how we come up with call and answer phrases. And he's also stating that I find it's difficult to keep with that ID after a few bars. Always want to take off and fly on the fretboard. Takes discipline, I guess. Like James said, like we're all guitarists, like we know how it is. But it is sometimes hard to restrain ourselves and to have boundaries in our practice.
Mm-hmm.
Practicing. If you don't have boundaries and don't practice with certain limitations in mind, and then your guitar playing is probably not going to grow at the level you want, because you're always playing the same things, playing scales up and down, or running through patterns you already know. And that's why you need to limit yourself through practicing. So when you're practicing, you can, for instance, say to yourself, well, I'm going to play with 4 notes, like what James said. And I'm only going to play this entire guitar solo using those 4 notes. And that's when your mind needs to be creative. And when your mind is engaged and you need to get creative, that's when you grow as a guitar player and when you're becoming more creative. And also you can use my approach as well. You can say to yourself, well, I'm going to go with Antony's approach now, and I'm going to play an entire guitar solo only on the B string with this little nifty fat butterfly technique he showed me. So yeah, these are all things that add up to your progress. But if you're not disciplined during practice, it only, lasts a while, and your progress starts to grow in the beginning, maybe because it's all new stuff you're learning. But then, as soon as the newness rubs off of the stuff you're playing, you're always at the same routine of playing the same things over and over again.
You know, when you do get stuck, when you're doing the same thing and you feel like you want to fly all over the fretboard, this is good. You want to get to a point where you feel bored with something. Like Muhammad Ali was asked in an interview, how many push-ups can you do? And he said 8 or 9. I said, what do you mean 8 or 9? You're Muhammad Ali. And he said, I only start counting after I can't do them anymore, after he's physically exhausted. So when you're playing your phrases, you're playing, a single idea. If you do it like 4 times and then it sounds boring, well, this means that this is when you rejoice and you say, well, thank God, here's the problem. I can't make 4 notes sound good. You go down your list of how can I make this sound better? How can I change this by adding ornaments and dynamics in these areas? So do not get frustrated when you feel like you're doing the same thing over and over. Go, all right, here's the problem. It's obviously affecting every area of my playing. So always think about if some guitar player you love were sitting next to you and could have the same exact rhythm and notes as you playing, how long could he do it for? Much longer. So don't get frustrated, stay focused.
Right. And in regards to playing slow and sexy blues guitar solos, like I'm wondering what your, James, in that case, or even if people are tuning in the chat, you can add up to the conversation. But what is your favorite guitar solo in that category, like the slow and heartfelt blues solos? If you have something that pops to mind, James, or if people want to share in the chat, that's also very cool.
One that pops to mind is one that I listened to since I was starting to play guitar when I was a young guy. Got an album called Last Night by Larry Carlton. And on that recording, there's a song called BP Blues. The thing that's cool about this song is it goes for a full, I looked at it today, 3 minutes and 55 seconds before the saxophone player takes a solo. He takes an idea, just think a very slow blues, 3 chords, for 4 minutes straight without sounding boring. That is incredibly sexy guitar playing.
That's great. What's that song again?
It's BP Blues, like B like in box and P like in guitar pedal.
BP Blues. All right. Cool. Yeah, and I was already mentioning like the Blues Deluxe album. So if people don't know this one, it's Joe Bonamassa's album, really great blues album. Came out, I think, in 2005 or something. So I think it's worthwhile to listen to if you're into this really slow and sexy blues guitar playing. And one thing that I've noticed in myself, we always want to, like if we're soloing, we want to rush the notes we're playing and we want to rush through scales. And if you do the exact opposite and you start to take a back seat, then it always flows much more. So if you're practicing like with a backing track and you're playing over chord changes, like the minor blues kind of thing, instead of trying to play like a lick, which is always a nice idea to start out with, it's like more scalar and stuff. I wouldn't say it's you can never use this thing, but you can always just start with like really simple bending, but instead of like pushing up the bend and then trying to force vibrato on it. Like, you can just really take your time with it and go like. And this is when you start to feel more confident about your guitar playing, because you're not rushing in there like when people ask you to play something or you're playing live, for example, for people that are already playing in bands. You're not rushing into, oh no, I need to play guitar solo. You just need to make really freaking cool sounds, like what James was saying. Like, that's your only obligation with the guitar. And after a while, you start thinking about this, and you start noticing your own thought patterns when you need to play a solo. And instead of saying like, well, I'm going to play this lick, I'm going to play this scale, maybe I should start with this, you just take one really cool idea, like a double stop, you add some gain to it, for instance, or a slide, or like with the bend I was playing, and then focus on the dynamics and on getting a great tone out there. And from there we can start building our story that as a guitar solo.
Yes, Joe Bonamassa is a great example for that, especially since you can go back and look at him playing when he was 12 or 13 years old. When you look at those recordings, he's doing all of that, and now you look at him and he's just, and he just milks it out. There's no tension in his earlier play. Well, I'm not going to say no tension, but compared to now, you're riding that wave of tension. You're riding that wave of not resolving, which is just, oh, it just feels so good. So when you say, all right, when he was a young fella, he's playing 1,000 notes a minute. Now he still plays 1,000 notes a minute. However, he does it at the right time. It shows the maturity of a guitar player, and it's kind of a looking glass into how you will play now versus when you get these ideas underneath your fingers. So yes, it's my thought on that.
All right, thanks, James. I like that. So if people want to reach out to you, James, and they like what you have to say about those 6 strings, this piece of very cool looking wood, so they can reach out to you. I believe your Facebook page is facebook.com guitar improvisation lessons. That is the place where people can find you, right? All right.
Right
And
on.
we have, cool. We have also, for people who want to get more into advanced guitar, blues guitar solos, we always give out a free resource at the end. So that's my how to play more advanced blues guitar solos. So you can find it at my website, bestbluesguitarlessonsonline.com/guitar solo tips. And you can download it there, and it's to take your blues guitar soloing to the next level, packed with guitar tips and secrets to create those advanced blues guitar licks and solos. So it's a free download. It's a free guide that you can download through the link on my website that you see below here. So also a big thank you for everyone who has been part of this today, or even who's going to watch the recording later on YouTube or Facebook or wherever. So James, a big thank you to you as well. I really appreciate you coming online to join us.
I appreciate you inviting me. Your style of teaching is absolutely top notch. It's helped me a great deal as well. No matter how advanced you get, your ideas always are relevant, and your style of teaching makes it easy to understand at every level. So I've always enjoyed your videos as well as your courses. So thank you.
Thank you, James. Thanks all for being here. Really appreciate it. And let's talk soon. For people who follow me on YouTube or taking the courses, we'll talk then. And James, a big thank you again. And let's talk soon. Also, have a really great rest of your day. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Right on.
Bye.